Through forensic photo analysis, I've found a massive historical cover-up. I started by looking at photos from the late 1800s to the early 1900s. This specific photo caught my eye. Something was off, and that's when I zoomed in on it. The tree line has clearly been altered. It's much darker behind the trees, where the editor got lazy and didn't wipe out the sky. And this was just the beginning of it. Because when I see one flaw, I know that it's time to investigate. A forensic photo analysis uses algorithms that we can determine if it's a real photo, computer generated, or if it was modified and edited. So I sent the photo into the forensic photo analysis, and the results were shocking. We clearly have something in the sky that has been removed from this photo. Before I give my thoughts on what it is, I just want all of you to look at it for a second and let me know in the comments below what you think that is. I'll also show you a comparison to another photo that I had analyzed to show that having a figure in the sky is not random and not normal. There was something here in this photo, and it's been edited out. It's undeniable. It's been removed to hide it from our timeline. In my opinion, this was an airship. We were never supposed to understand just how popular this free form of transportation really was. It was much more powerful than we could ever imagine. Here we have a castle. Oh, did I say castle? I meant courthouse. We have the Royal Courts of Justice, located in London, England, where for some weird reason, they just couldn't decide on a design for this project. There were so many designs coming in with master plans that they needed to hold a design competition, which was very common back in the 1800s because, of course, these 1800s people were just brilliant. It was very simple stuff back then. They just weren't distracted. They worked harder than us. And as long as they could draw it on a piece of paper with their feather, Donkeys Incorporated had the construction side of things down. Never an issue in the 1800s. So the competition began in 1866, 158 years ago, and ended in 1867. After 12 architects drew up their master plans, something that nobody will ever create again today, they supposedly had 12 guys in just London that could draw this type of thing up. In 2023, or 2024, we have a total of 0 people that could draw this up and get it constructed in the entire world, let alone just London. 158 years ago, according to the mainstream narrative, this was, of course, no problem at all. Very simple stuff. So in 1868, they picked George Street. He was the champion of this contest. He went and got Messrs. Bull and his sons. Because in the 1800s, every single construction company in the whole world has to have sons at the end of it for some reason. Going back to the great Samuel Hannaford's and Sons, and there's many other examples throughout the episodes. In my opinion, this is another clear pattern, proving that the AI is generating these names all over the world. Now, just to put this all into perspective, if we are trusting the mainstream story, only 57 years prior to all of this happening, Abe Lincoln, a president of the United States, was being born in this masterpiece. The USA supposedly broke away from England and supposedly beat them in the war. If the USA was that smart and could beat England in a war, surely an architect or two would have followed along to America. I mean, London alone had 12. Surely the USA would have gotten 1 or 2. So in 1809, we have shed masterpieces being put together with perfection. And all over London, we have the interior, holding more than 1,000 rooms that include various meeting chambers, administrative offices, and at least, but could be more, than 78 courtrooms. Additionally, there are 3.5 miles of corridors, and supposedly have all of this being constructed, even though we're told that the Masons led a serious strike in the beginning of the project. Bullcrap and Sons had to find more master builders, which, of course, was simple stuff in the 1800s. There was plenty to go around. So they were able to get some from Germany, and they knocked this entire thing out with perfection. And it will last forever. And even though there were some issues finding new people to construct this place, it wasn't a problem, really. They got the whole thing done and settled in just 8 years. Are you on the fence? Should we go deeper? Not only was this done with perfection, the winner of the contest, George Street, as we have seen so many times before, dies before the project was completed. This is so repetitive, where the winner of a design competition doesn't live to see the end of the project, and they're able to just bring anybody else in to finish it. Doesn't matter who. Everybody could do this back in the 1800s with ease. So then we have the Church of St. Mary, the Virgin Ivinghoe. And this will all tie together, but this was found around 800 years ago, in the year 1220, or 1222, which, I mean, come on. It was the booming 1200s. They worked by moonlight. Very busy people, very dedicated. Lots of skilled hunters and gatherers, without a power tool in sight. Actually 673 years away from a power tool, supposedly. And of course the building will be there forever. They are addicted to lying, because it is thought that an even older church may have originally stood here. I'm just surprised they didn't say that the first one burned down in a fire. The church was of course rebuilt, for some reason, in the year 1234, which was only 12 years after they say they found it. And they say that some of the original features survived. Survived? Wait, why are they rebuilding it? What happened? Did I miss some? Oh, you gotta be joking. 4 years after they found it, it supposedly burned down in a fire. To believe these stories, it would take some effort at this point. And I'm just gonna be honest with you. In my opinion, that isn't even the craziest part of the story. Let's go even deeper. But before we do that, I just want to show you all the reoccurring AI-generated names really quick. We have Richard Blackhead and Richard Seward. So we have two Richards. And of course, Peter Desroches and Peter Checkapork. So we got two Peters and two Richards. We have more builders in London that like to build with their sons, John Warner and Sons, with, of course, another John down here at the bottom, John Downcombe, where he has two wives, marries both of them. And one's named Mary. We have John Downcombe, and of course, we can't forget about the other Downcombe, Thomas, and the other one, William. And for the best part of this name generator, William married two people, Mary and Alice, spelled A-L-I-C-E. John Downcombe. Guess who he marries? Do I even need to say it? I think we all know at this point what her name will be. Another Alice, spelled A-L-Y-C-E. If you're new to this and on the fence, if the AI is generating these names, this is not the first time that this has happened. You're gonna wanna check out episode 43 and all the reoccurring names in that one. Are we having fun? Are we ready for the best part? Remember, when we are told about the George Street guy, you know, the guy that died in the middle of the 1,000 room palace project that was done in 8 years, 158 years ago? Guess who the AI just had to add in here to try to explain this one away as well? Mr. George Edmund Street. When in 1871 to 1872, he of course knocked out some Victorian Gothic revival style elements and built the north and south porches, as well as a medieval style baptistry. Of course he did. None of that was original, and this is totally believable. Oh, wait, it isn't? No, this was here long before anyone named George Street came around, and he did not do any medieval style construction in a year, 153 years ago. This was constructed by the previous civilization that was much more advanced than we are today. And now that we know that George Street is a pawn in their generated system, it's time to investigate even further. I have located George Street in all of his supposed projects. And remember, in the 1800s, he was doing projects that we cannot recreate today. In just 1 year, George Street was supposedly born in 1824. How old do you think he was when he was completing his first building? 35 would be shocking. 30 is insane. We are told that George Street got to work and built the St. Mary's Church in 1848, making Street just 24 years old. And if you go onto this church's website, they say he was 22, where his sister, an embroiderer, heard of a Cornish clergyman and needed a new church built. Who better to ask than a 22 or 24-year-old clerk? His sister, Mary, prevailed to give her inexperienced brother the commission for his brand new church. The rest, as they say, is his story. So obviously this is ridiculous. And we need to keep digging because, wait, oh, are they really gonna keep doing this today? What was his sister's name again? And what is the church's name? Both named Mary? Okay, I think at this point we can be sure that they won't do it again. Right? No. No way. George Street, his name is George. What is the guy's name that is building the building that hired George Street? They're not going to tell us that this guy's name is also George. If they say that his name is George, then I don't know what I'm going to do, but what is Reverend Prine's name? You know, the Cornish clergyman who intended to build the new Street Mary Church, where George's sister Mary went and asked George Prine. I knew it was the AI before. I don't get shocked at things very often. This one is just so in your face. It's incredible. The good old Cornish clergyman giving away work in Cornwall. Amazing. I think we can do a few episodes on this first George Street, and probably a few episodes on the second George and all the Marys. Let me know if you want me to dig more into their narrative. So George Street, the first George, the 22 or 24-year-old master builder. Remember, he was constructing this 1,000-room courthouse in London for 7 years because he was kicked out of the script a year before it got done in 1882. And remember, from our last episode, episode 52, this is the exact same time period where you have all this chaos going on around the world. Nobody is focused on these narratives. You have all these millions of orphans all over the USA. You have the Civil War going on. You have slavery. You have all these insane high-intensity type events going on all over the place. People were not looking into George Street and the hundreds of buildings that they were pinning on this character. In fact, even if they wanted to, it wasn't written in a book yet. And they didn't have the resources to prove anything. So they just had to simply believe it. And everyone accepted it as the truth until now. 1873 to 1881, George Street is pinned as the man in charge of the Royal Courts of Justice for those 8 years. I would love to know if he was fully focused on this project, one that we could never reproduce today in 8 years. And we have shown the Kleksinski building in Chicago, where it is a basic box that took our civilization 14 years to build, from 1960 to 1974. Or was George so good at his job that he could also get multiple other projects done at the exact same time? 1873 to 1881, George has been pinned and said to have had 42 other projects going on at the exact same time. Still believing the mainstream narrative? They tell us that the Linenwold Castle, located in Ambler, Pennsylvania, was designed by Milton Bean and built in 1890 without any details on its construction. It's just done in 1890, where Madison lived in the castle with his second wife, Mary, where after Madison died, the new people turned this palace into an orphanage called St. Mary's. Mary, Mary, Mary. So we have a massive castle, done in 1 year or less. And for decades, that's all we needed to hear for it to be true, until now, where we understand that logically, that is impossible, especially 134 years ago. And especially when it's a castle straight out of the old world civilization's home improvement catalog. Here on HouseHisTree.com, in the middle of this story that has zero logistical details or anything relevant to actually building anything, and just has a bunch of nonsense, like naming sons royal, retired business partners, and telling us how many rooms are in this castle that they found. They do give us a tip, and the tip is the Windsor Castle. The sentence reads that Madison might have chose to model his castle after the Windsor Castle, which is the most popular answer. And it's the most popular answer among which group? Because that is definitely not the most popular answer to us, but they think it might be modeled after another castle nearby, and they all dispute it for years and years. And remember, it's all nonsense. We have no idea who this group is that they tell us that this is the most popular thought. What I see in all of this is one thing: the Windsor Castle. And I want to see what year they say this Windsor Castle was built in, because I bet you it is connected to this castle. And this castle in Pennsylvania might have actually been built hundreds of years ago, if not thousands. And they will give it all away with this Windsor Castle connection. Located in Berkshire, Windsor, built in 1070, over 954 years ago as a fortress, and covers 484,000 square feet of living space, divided into about 1,000 rooms. So something is extremely clear here. We are 100% being lied to about our history. And we all know that, but I have to say it out loud, because 1,000 years ago, they are building 1,000 room fortresses with ease. And it of course lasts forever, no questions asked. And today we have evolved so much that we can't build a sidewalk without stepping in it before it dries. Now, this is my opinion, but I can see them adding this Windsor Castle into the narrative for a specific reason. And I personally think it's to connect the dates, that these castles are from nearly 1,000 years ago, when the previous civilization that had all the technology, had proper training, and had the logistics down. Instead of the opposite happening, where we are told that there were no classes in castle building at the local community college in the year 1070, where they would go home to their sheds and sleep with candlelight, freezing using barn hay as beds, and then waking up again traveling by horse and wagon to pull stone and granite miles on a trail, and getting this 1,000 room fortress done no problem. The timeline is clearly all over the place at this point. They could have told us that it was built in the year 1045. It would have made no difference, and people would have just believed it until you start digging deeper, which we are doing here. Episode 41 is awesome at showing the proper logistics of a project, if you're interested in that after this. The castle has, of course, 300 fireplaces and 379 clocks. Do any of our towns have any upcoming plans to knock a 1,000 room, 300 fireplace fortress out in the next few years? What about half that? No? With our modern construction, 1,000 years after they did this, we should be able to do this with ease, since they did, without a power tool in sight. Supposedly, we have a better education system, so we are told. We have more knowledge than ever, supposedly. What is wrong with this picture? I would say a lot. Do you understand that something is wrong with the timeline? Something massive? Can we all see the lie very clearly now? We have been lied to about all of this, starting around the year 1800, and possibly right before that, where everything in our timeline began. And the old world buildings from the previous civilization are still here for us to see, in every city, with insane narratives to try to fit them into this lie, where we are told that people from 1,000 years ago were less than us, worse off. And we are told that we have all this brand new technology in the last 200 years. Everything is brand new. Every company was created recently, all over the world. Is that not strange to you? And we're told this new technology has never been here before. Planes, trains, cars, phones, computers, internet, and the AI, when it has. And in my opinion, it's been here many, many times before. I believe that I have found possibly the clearest proof that these buildings are much older than we are told, and clearly built by a much more advanced civilization that was here before our current timeline, that we aren't being told about. We have the Pancharatna Govinda Temple, where the trees, the grass, the weeds, the rest of it are totally overgrowing and covering the structure, which would take decades of zero maintenance, which would also mean that in order for this story to be true, the one that they're telling us, they would have had to build the building and then left it immediately after, without it even ever being used. A massive, perfect temple located in Pattaya, India. And today I want to show you just how horrible the mainstream historians are at their job. They tell us that the palace is reported to have been built at some point between 1823 and 1895, at some point. But they have no idea. But when we go back to episode 50 and read the narrative about this arch, they knew all about the history and told us that it was constructed in the second half, not the first half, the second half of the 3rd century BC, because they of course know all about the negative 300s, but have zero idea what's going on between 1823 and 1895. Can you see how insane this is? They can't have both. Either you know what's going on or you don't. So it's reported to have been built. Reported by who? Did it get reported by Ron Burgundy? Who is the reporter, for one? And for two, their report is pretty terrible, giving us a 72-year gap. And on top of all of this, the photo has the number 73 written on it, which of course could mean anything and could be wrong, but let's pretend it's the year 1873, since remember, James Ferguson, the man who actually took this photo, died in 1886. This would make sense. This would mean that the mainstream history is completely wrong, and there is no way that it could have been built at any point after 1873. since we have a picture of it here. And it definitely couldn't have been built after Ferguson's death in 1886. Yet they tell us that it could have been built in 1895. It's incredible. And a clear lie, since we have a photo of it and proof that it was here long before that and found with nature growing all over it. And here it sits today. So clearly they have uncovered more from the surrounding area that was also buried by nature. And when you zoom in on the building, this was something that was constructed in the 1800s by Donkeys Incorporated. So I wonder if this is the way that a lot of these old world buildings were found, with trees and grass all over them. But we just never had a photo of it. And this gets even more interesting. When we take a look at this place from the sky, this was not a random building sometime in 1800. And I want to make that point very clear. We have a water system that has 90-degree angles surrounding this building. Not only that, but there are multiple temples. It honestly looks like a fortress. So we have these other structures within this area, with this one being the biggest of them all. And we have some damage done to the side here, which I wonder if it depicted something before they destroyed it that they did not want us to see. Now I'm gonna drop this view down on Google Earth and show you the detail of this place, and show you that this is obviously not from the last 200 years. We have seen so many buildings from the USA that were supposedly built in the last 200 years, or even in our last episode when we showed the Windsor Castle, which was built 1,000 years ago, supposedly, which is in perfect shape. In my opinion, this building that we're looking at today is thousands of years old, possibly covering not just one population reset, but many. I don't think the 1800s were the first reset. I think that whoever controls the resets fully understands how to execute them and have perfected them over time. They've tweaked them, giving us back less and less technology each time that was once here before the new timeline is revealed, which is why our architecture gets worse and worse. In 100 years, 99% of our homes with plastic siding without maintenance would basically be gone, which in my opinion is exactly what they want. So when the next reset comes around, if there is one, there's no proof that we were ever here. Here we have the Manitowoc County Courthouse, located in Wisconsin, where we have a building that is much older than we were told. You'll enjoy this. The current courthouse is the third courthouse to serve Manitowoc County. The first courthouse was built in 1839. 13 years later, we are told that in 1852, this one burned down in a fire. Of course it did. Because 99% of the old world buildings, as we know, hold a fire story. The fire story is the nod to the Hidden Group, in my opinion. That this building is from the previous civilization, and we did not construct this building in our current timeline. In my opinion, this is the only courthouse that has ever been here, yet they tell us the second courthouse was all done and wrapped up in 1857 on the same site as the present courthouse. Of course it was. This is the same courthouse. In just 48 years, we are told that this one was outdated and needed to be replaced, because in the 1800s, they could be picky and build a new building whenever they wanted. A time before the power tool. They could just knock buildings down and replace them very easily. Oh wait, no, they didn't knock the second one down? The second courthouse was moved a block to the south. So now they're just moving buildings around. After going through the trouble of moving this brand new courthouse that was supposedly too old, they demolish it to make way for a jail and a sheriff's department. This is incredible. Does this sound shady or what? Here we go. The courthouse that is a masterpiece and will be here forever was built in just 2 years, in 1905 to 1907, by another company with a guy and his sons, of course, because they can't seem to leave the sons part out. And then we get the old severe storm damaged the glass. The old world dome was destroyed by some rain. Sure it was. And then they rebuilt it with stainless steel, of course. I would love to know what that dome really looked like before it was destroyed. And what was it made of before they destroyed it? And what kind of artwork did it have? And all of this is not even the craziest part. The guy and his son's construction company were so good at their job that they could knock this palace out in less than 24 months, over 120 years ago. So their resumes should be long listed and hold other masterpieces. Right? Wait, no? What is this? George Rickman and Sons Construction Company only constructed 2 buildings in their entire existence, and both of them in the year 1906. So not only were they knocking out two palaces, so they say, but they were also doing it at the exact same time, and then never built anything ever again. How is that believable at all? Over 120 years ago? Well, it isn't. Especially when they were located in different states. One located in Benton, Iowa. The other one located in northern Wisconsin, which is over a 5-hour drive in 2024, over 300 miles apart. Yet they are laying the cornerstone supposedly in late 1905, mid-October, and completing it basically that same year in 1906. And if you're on the fence and you haven't seen the fire narrative before this episode, get ready to have your mind blown. We already know that the Manitowoc County Courthouse holds the fire narrative and was supposedly built by the same people in the same year. The Benton County Courthouse, the first courthouse where the county officers occupied 2 rooms. In the supposed unfinished second floor, before the building was destroyed by a fire the following year. Now, the third courthouse was built in December of 1856. The second and third courthouses were built on the same location as the present courthouse, the fourth courthouse on this site. At which point can we all agree that the mainstream narrative of our supposed history is a complete lie? It is the exact same story over and over and over, all over the world, where we get multiple courthouses on the same exact site, and they all light up in fire somehow. And they all have the same architect and his sons, with 0 details ever given to us on the actual construction process. And then you go look at the finished product, and it's a masterpiece, something that will last forever, and something that we don't recreate today, and something that was supposedly built in 1 year or less. And we have never seen this happen. And we have so many more resources than they did, supposedly. And then whenever we're told that they're gonna go renovate one of these buildings, the renovation process takes multiple years and an incredible amount of manpower. And it only took the 1800s and early 1900s people 1 year or less. It doesn't make any logical sense when you really think about it. The Benton County Courthouse never had 3 previous courthouses, in my opinion. This is the only courthouse, and these stories are just that. They're stories. They're not true. A building that features a 112-foot central tower. It contains a 4-faced illuminated clock, a 1,500-pound B-flat bell, and is topped with a dome. The 2-story structure sits on a raised basement. All of this, we are told, was built in a year or less, while the builder was off in northern Wisconsin at the exact same time. And both buildings holding basically the exact same narrative, where they have multiple buildings on the same site, and both buildings holding the fire narrative. Can you see the lie very clearly now? And are you ready for the most eye-opening part of this story? The part that gives this all away, that this is mathematically impossible for it to be true, considering everything that we have talked about to this point. Here we go. The Manitowoc County Courthouse was supposedly completed in 1905, when the Benton County Courthouse started that same exact year and was completed in 1906. And the Manitowoc County Courthouse, again, holds its fire story in 1852. What are the odds that the Benton County Courthouse stood unfinished until the exact same year of 1852, when the county officers occupied 2 rooms in the unfinished building, when it was destroyed by a fire the following year? The fire narrative is the key and the nod that these buildings were built by the previous civilization. When you know what you're looking for, it becomes extremely clear that the narrative is a lie. And these buildings have a hidden past that we are not being told about. Both fires happening a year apart, having the same builder characters with sons attached to the name, having the same year of construction. Both narratives having multiple courthouses located on the exact same site, located over 300 miles apart, built with perfection, and both lasting forever. And we all remember that George Rickman and his sons only built 2 buildings in their entire existence, which would never hold up in court, since it wasn't like they were out there building 7-Elevens. They built 2 massive palaces with perfection and fast. They would be the most sought after construction company in the world today, based on what they did. And they did it all with 0 formal training. which was standard back in the 1800s, according to the mainstream historians. So 2 buildings for them, both in the exact same year, totally believable, no. And then we have the supposed architect, Bell and Detweiler, where you will all enjoy to hear that Bell and Detweiler also only constructed 2 buildings in their entire existence. Also, in the exact same year. And both buildings just happen to be palaces that last forever. How can this be possible? You would think that these 2 would team up for a few more projects, just for old time's sake. And maybe build some houses for some people. Maybe a local business would be interested in hiring them. No? It never happened again. Just 2 massive buildings in the exact same year. And then they both call it a career. If I'm being totally honest, this isn't even close to possible. This is honestly incredible that this is what we've been told. And this is the explanation for these buildings. How have we all just allowed this for so long? Could you imagine today that Bell and Sons, with 0 backstory, both knocking out these courthouses and state capitol buildings in the exact same year? One in Iowa, the other one in South Dakota, and 0 information on their training processes. Every architect will tell you, and every engineer will tell you, that this is impossible. Where are the materials coming from? How many men did they have working on the project? Were the workers also trained somewhere? Or were they just local prisoners, like we've been told so many times? And then after all of this, they get these buildings done with perfection, and nobody ever hires them again. With nothing on their resume. They were hired for 2 palaces in the exact same year. It just isn't logical. And both the architect and the construction company definitely would have built something else after these 2 incredible buildings. All right, so here we have the Saints Peter and Paul Church with a location that you would think that they might want to change, since it is a church. Located at 666 Filbert Street, San Francisco, California. I mean, what is going on here? When I saw this, I couldn't believe my eyes. This is the address that they give a church? Really? So not only is the address bizarre, so is the history, where we're told that this is the 2nd church on this site. The first one being built in 1884 and was destroyed by an earthquake 22 years later. So the next one was built on the same site of 666 Filbert Street. And of course, when you dig deeper, you get more than just an earthquake. You get the fire narrative and the nod that this building is from the old world, where the church succumbed to the destructive forces of the 1906 earthquake and subsequent fire, leading to them demolishing it. How long did it take to construct the first one? Who was the architect? The construction company? How many men did it take to build the first one? Because this is the first church that is here today. This is the only church that's ever been on this site of 666 Filbert Street, San Francisco. And we know that now. And we also know that they want to destroy these buildings and have for a very long time, because these buildings give it all away. That the narrative isn't logical. This supposed second church, which we know is the first church, but the second one, we are told, was completed in 1924. 2 years later, in 1926 and 1927, St. Peter's and Paul Church was bombed 4 times. What were they bombing and destroying inside and on the outside of this church that they didn't want us to see? Dates? Artwork of the old world? The bombs were always placed at night, and no one was ever around to see what was going on. Bombs would go off every few months, and for the clear giveaway that this, in my opinion, was a planned operation. Another bomb went off inside the church, January 1927. Though there was a police officer monitoring the church, he was unable to catch the bomber. Do you fully trust the mainstream narrative? Are you on the fence? Well, if this is the first time finding this channel or hearing anything about the previous civilization, get ready to have your mind blown. We are given the St. Anne Shrine, located in Fall River, Massachusetts. We are given the mainstream history, where we are told the church was designed by Canadian architect Napoleon Bourassa in the Romanesque Revival style, with construction beginning in 1891. Well, I have located a postcard from over 120 years ago of this building, and there is a major flaw on the back of this postcard that I don't think that anyone was ever meant to see, and we're about to see it right now. St. Anne's Church and Shrine, Fall River, Massachusetts, founded in 1869, which is 22 years before they tell us that construction was just starting on this project in 1891. Not only do they give us the date of 1869, they also say that it was founded. We have proven in episode 35 that the legal definition of the word founded is not constructed or built. You do not find your home, you build your home. It is constructed. In 1869, they found this building, and they are attempting to lie to us in the narrative, time and time again. This time we can see the lie, right on the table, for everybody to see. What a horrible mistake by the narrator. It is 100% undeniable proof that the story is lying to us, with a total mix-up, having this 1869 founded date on the back of a postcard that they thought nobody would ever see. This building was not built by people riding around on horses and wagons. This building was found. It was built by the previous civilization that had incredible knowledge and architecture skills and understood how to construct buildings that last forever. So now that we know that this building was founded and the narrative is a complete lie, let's take a look into this architect character, Mr. Napoleon Bourassa. And when we take a look at his biography, the character never actually leaves Canada, besides a little vacation to Europe. If he is truly constructing this palace in Massachusetts, this would have been mentioned, considering it's more impressive than anything we have ever constructed today. But the fact that they act like this is pathetic and not even worth mentioning, especially in a time period where presidents were being born in sheds. This should be alarming to anyone. They say his office is in Quebec, Canada, born in Montreal, Canada, visited Europe, founded the Canadian Journal, doing more in Montreal, Canada, in 1880 finding the National Gallery of Canada. Him and his fellow artists are doing more in Quebec, Canada, then dies in Canada. Where is the part that he throws his cowboy hat on, saddles up, heads down to Massachusetts on his horse and wagon, and works for the shipping company Donkeys Incorporated, and knocks out a massive palace? It's not in the narrative, because Napoleon Dynamite didn't do this. It was already found in 1869, exactly like we have shown. The narrative is fully lying to us, and we have fully documented this throughout the first 50 episodes. Now, we have talked about the Samuel Hannaford and Sons in episode 24, I believe, and I thought I would let you all know that they also decided to knock this building out, the Greene County Courthouse in Ohio. And don't forget that they were just incredible. Their chisels just moved a little faster than the rest of ours. Beginning this project in 1901 and completing it in less than 12 months. The winters, of course, weren't an issue. They never were in the 1800s. Honestly, I would love to see someone in 2023 or 2024 try and recreate this project in less than a year. It wouldn't even be close, and we all know this now. So we might ask, in 1901 to 1902, we were able to get these projects done so fast all over the world. It was so easy. What happened? Where did this technology go? Why do we not still do this today? The answer is clear at this point. These stories aren't true. These buildings were not built in 1 year. They were found and repurposed. They used the same architect characters from multiple buildings to attempt to explain them away. We lost this technology within the last 122 years to construct massive structures in a year? No. Our timeline never had this technology, and we are being lied to. Just adding in primary features of 4,500-pound clocks that are inside of a clock tower that reaches 145 feet into the sky. With perfection, of course. Oh, and the 4,500-pound clock inside of the frame that weighs an additional 3,000 pounds, and of course every hour, still ringing today. This alone would have taken us 5 years to get done. Considering it takes us like a year to get a sidewalk done, and our sidewalks fall apart in like 5 years. This building, on the other hand, with a clock tower and all, will be there forever, as long as nobody touches it. In September of 2022, we have an article in the Dayton Daily News, where apparently the building needs our help. We all know that restoration really means destruction at this point. In my opinion, something happened within the last year or so, where a lot of these buildings are being destroyed or restored. And we have a lot of episodes where we have gone to these places and documented that. The Greene County Courthouse will be getting a facelift. Oh, incredible. This fall, as the county seeks to repair and restore and destroy the exterior of the historic building. A $322,000 project to destroy the outside of the old building, which is obviously one of Greene County's most recognizable landmarks. And this next sentence is going to show how old this building really is. The courthouse currently has some limestone that is spalling and in need of repairs. The definition of the word spalling is break off in fragments. Now, how long does it take for stone to break down? You could say that stones decompose over many thousands and even millions of years. Do we all believe that this limestone is spalling in just 100 years? Or is this building much older than we are told? I'd like you to comment below with your opinion. But you all know which way I'm leaning. Incredible stuff. Oh, and of course, they've wanted to do this for a very long time. I mean, how much clearer could this get? This building was not built in less than a year in 1901 to 1902. They've wanted to fix the spalling stone for a long time. And I have to be honest, I don't even know if they realize what they're saying at this point, but they're actually admitting that it's way older than 1901, whether they realize it or not. And of course, additional destructions will be made to the courthouse that they just aren't going to let us know about. Now, this was all back in 2022, so I'm guessing it'll all be done by now, considering it supposedly only took them less than a year to complete the entire building in 1901 to 1902. And we're evolving and advancing, right? Now, while researching this, I thought Greene County only had one courthouse, which they do, but all of a sudden, I was sitting there with two Greene County courthouses, but they're both in a county called Greene. What is with the AI repeating itself over and over? Duplicates all the time. Is this how all the names were created? For all the towns? All the cities, all the characters that they give us. Is this even how our last names were generated? It's all so strange. So we have the Greene County Courthouse that we just talked about over in Ohio, but we have another Greene County in Illinois with another courthouse that was supposedly constructed in less than a year. So both built in less than a year. And this one is even older than the last one that we just talked about. Built in a year from 1891 to 1892. And we all know that this is logistically impossible at this point. We have gone over this for anyone that is new here, or for anyone that wants to revisit this. I think episode 41 is awesome at going over this. There are so many key factors that come into play when designing, preparing, constructing, and executing a building to perfection. You have to have everything go perfect. And even then, knocking it out in a year, over 130 years ago, is insane. It's almost turning into a test to see who gets the joke at this point. Both named the same thing and both built in less than a year. In an interview from 2014, the Greene County clerk and recorder says in an article titled Greene County Courthouse stands the test of time. Exactly what we've been saying here on this channel. And of course, exactly how our construction that we only take 10 months on lasts forever. It stands the test of time. Oh, it doesn't? No, it doesn't. So she says, we have done some rewiring and other things like that, but that's about the only thing wrong with the place. Knocking it out in a year. Good forever. Very standard work for the 1890s, because they just worked harder than us, of course. Just more dedicated. Less distractions and less code restrictions. Yeah, sorry, but that doesn't cut it anymore. The 3-story limestone Romanesque revival style building will be there forever, as long as they leave it alone. So in the article, they start saying that there were multiple courthouses here before this one. Because why not? And we all know at this point that this is the first courthouse. It's the only one that's ever been here. But I wanted to see what they had to say about all of these other courthouses. So the county was created in 1821. What do you know? They knocked a courthouse out in 1821 to 1822. Now, we have talked a lot about reoccurring names, and this is not the first time we've seen this. I brought it up before, and I'm going to bring it up again. Episode 43, for anyone new here, is the best example of this. The AI is generating these names and these stories, in my opinion. And here we have another example of this. The courthouse was a long frame structure and was built by William Finley and another Finley, Thomas. So those names would be fine if we didn't have hundreds of examples of this. We would just say that they are brothers. The problem is that we know what is going on here. It isn't brothers. And I will prove this because in the exact same paragraph, we have Thomas Finley and Thomas Ratton. Multiple Thomases and multiple Finleys. The odds are 0%. There is no chance that this is remotely possible, especially with all of the hours and hours of documented evidence that we have provided. This has happened so many times. This is becoming clearer and clearer by the week. It's in every single city, every single town, all over the world. It's the exact same thing. In the comments section, you guys are all saying the exact same thing in your towns, where you find a fire story, and you find the same thing with reoccurring themes and names. It's the same thing all over the world. These are AI-generated names, in my opinion, where they throw a bunch of names into this system and it twists them a little bit, making each story basically the same thing, but just dedicated to that one specific spot. It's undeniable at this point. And then you have the classic half windows at the current ground level, where there is clearly more to this building under the ground, and most likely a tunnel system connecting it to surrounding buildings. I have founded this photo of the Summer Street fire. And honestly, these are brick buildings. Fires don't look like bombs went off. This is not the result of a fire, in my opinion. It looks like the city was carpet bombed. It's just completely wiped out. It's a total mess. Fires don't do this kind of damage. I mean, it looks like the whole area is in the middle of a garbage site at this point. There's just dirt everywhere. There's nothing left. And remember, there was a great fire in nearly every major city. Check it out. I guarantee there was one in a city near you. So, were these really fires? Or were they being bombed to wipe these buildings out that were everywhere? Buildings that we have shown that hold dates on them. Buildings that 100% do not fit in our timeline. It's incredible stuff. I mean, look at these photos. This is the result of a fire? No. In my opinion, there is no way. House fires do not melt stone and brick. It has to be close to 1,500 degrees to 2,000 degrees to melt stone. And house fires simply don't get that hot. Look at the destruction. The ground is really messed up. I mean, what building was in this location that they did not want us to see? Just knowing what we know, seems like it was probably a good one. And just a few more photos here showing the destruction of these fires that started by a cow tipping over a lantern. But at least they switched it up. From horses and cowboys to the stone and marble shipping company, Donkeys Incorporated, to a cow, just rubbing it right in our faces for decades. Until now.